Tonight, a Supreme Court decision is set to reshape the American economy and our global relationships. For years, tariffs, taxes on imported goods, were a hallmark of the Trump administration, aiming to protect U.S. industries but sparking global trade wars. Today, the Supreme Court has ordered those tariffs to come down, challenging the very foundation of presidential power over trade. The ruling shifts the authority to set trade policy back to Congress, raising urgent questions about the balance of power in Washington. This isn't just about steel or solar panels, it's about who writes the rules for the world's largest economy. The decision will impact everything from the price of your groceries to the competitiveness of American businesses. Trump's tariffs were meant to bring jobs home, but critics say they raised costs and hurt U.S. companies reliant on global supply chains. Now, the legal battle is over, and the precedent is set. No president can impose sweeping tariffs without Congress. This could fundamentally alter U.S. trade policy for years to come. Tonight, we'll break down what this means for you, the upcoming elections, and America's place in the world. We'll hear from business leaders, political figures, and those directly affected. The story of these tariffs is about power, money, and the future of the global economy. Let's dive in. The Supreme Court's 6-3 decision overturns Trump's sweeping tariffs, declaring the use of national security as a justification had gone too far. This ruling curtails executive power and returns trade authority to Congress, signaling a shift toward more stable, rules-based global commerce. For years, unpredictable tariffs disrupted supply chains and triggered global retaliation. Now, international leaders see hope for renewed cooperation and predictability. The court found no clear link between the tariffs and genuine security threats, setting a higher bar for future presidents. Markets responded instantly. Stocks surged, especially in manufacturing and retail. For Americans, this could mean lower prices, but the transition will be complex as tariffs are unwound. To understand today's decision, let's rewind to 2018. Trump's administration imposed steep tariffs on steel and aluminum, citing national security under a Cold War-era law. The goal: protect U.S. industries and pressure countries like China to change their trade practices. The tariffs quickly expanded, sparking a trade war and raising costs for thousands of American businesses. Implementation was swift, often bypassing Congress, fueling controversy over executive overreach. Critics warned this set a dangerous precedent, while supporters saw it as a promise kept to struggling manufacturing states. Legal challenges mounted as businesses faced higher costs and retaliatory tariffs abroad. The stage was set for a major constitutional showdown. Today's Supreme Court ruling is the final chapter in that battle. The tariffs divided America. Steel and aluminum producers cheered, seeing a lifeline for their industries. But manufacturers using those metals faced soaring costs, passing them on to consumers or cutting profits. The ripple effect made U.S. goods less competitive globally. Allies like Canada and the EU retaliated, targeting iconic American products and hurting exporters, especially farmers. The trade war strained diplomatic ties and sparked legal battles over presidential authority. Critics argued the tariffs punished allies and fueled global uncertainty. The controversy reached beyond economics, challenging America's alliances and global leadership. Businesses and trade groups fought back in court, claiming the president had overstepped constitutional limits. That fight led directly to today's Supreme Court decision. September 23, 2025. The Supreme Court draws a clear line on executive trade power. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled that Section 232 was meant for true national security emergencies, not broad economic competition. Chief Justice Roberts wrote, "The executive is granted deference in national security, but not a blank check to rewrite economic policy." The ruling sets a stricter test. Future tariffs must show a direct link to defense needs, not just economic concerns. Power to regulate broad trade policy returns to Congress. The dissent argued for more presidential flexibility, but the majority prevailed. The decision narrows executive authority and rebalances power between the branches. It's a landmark moment for the separation of powers in U.S. trade policy. The ruling sparked immediate, passionate reactions nationwide. The White House called it a victory for consumers and a return to stable, rules-based trade. Former President Trump decried the decision, insisting tariffs were vital for national security and American jobs. Some Republicans vowed to restore presidential authority, while others welcomed the shift back to free market principles. Business groups like the National Retail Federation and Chamber of Commerce celebrated, hoping for lower prices and predictability. The steel industry warned of job losses and a flood of cheap imports. Trade experts called it the most significant trade ruling in decades, predicting short-term disruption but long-term stability. Union leaders urged Congress to protect American workers as the policy landscape shifts. The debate over free trade versus protectionism is far from over. The ruling has redrawn the battle lines in Washington and across the country. The next steps will shape the future of American industry and global commerce. The political fallout is immediate, with midterms looming. Democrats tout the decision as a win for consumers and economic stability. Republicans are split. Populists decry the ruling, while pro-business voices see opportunity. Markets surged, especially for companies reliant on global supply chains. U.S. exporters expect relief as foreign retaliatory tariffs are lifted. Economists predict consumer prices will fall as tariffs disappear from supply chains. For families, this could ease inflation and lower everyday costs. But workers in protected industries like steel face new uncertainty and possible job losses. The government will be pressured to support and retrain displaced workers. Internationally, the ruling reassures allies and strengthens America's commitment to a rules-based order. The U.S. may now lead new coalitions to address unfair trade practices. The debate over how to balance protection and global competition enters a new phase. What's next for American trade? Experts see a chance to rebuild alliances and pursue modern trade agreements on digital commerce, labor, and the environment. The risk sudden exposure to global competition could hurt industries that relied on tariffs. Congress and the administration must manage the transition, offering support to affected workers and communities. The U.S.-China relationship remains a challenge. Future strategies will likely be more multilateral, working with allies to pressure China. The ruling returns real power to Congress, demanding more debate and consensus on trade. The opportunity, a more democratic, transparent approach to economic policy. The risk gridlock in a polarized Congress could stall progress. The coming months will test whether lawmakers can forge a new path for U.S. trade. The world is watching. Today's story is about more than tariffs. It's about the Supreme Court's power to shape our nation's future. This ruling redefines the limits of executive authority and the balance of power in Washington. It will influence elections, industries, and America's global role for years to come. The debate over protectionism versus free trade is far from settled. Now, the responsibility shifts to Congress and the American people. The gavel has fallen. The world is watching to see what comes next. We'll be here to follow every step of this historic journey.